So I'd like to introduce Charmaine Weldon, a Wiradjuri Kamilaroi woman from rural New South Wales. She grew up in Gillagumbone and lived in Sydney for over 27 years. Charmaine has worked in domestic violence for the past 17 years. For the past 5 years, she's worked with South Sydney Women's Domestic Violence Court Assistant Advocacy Service, which is funded by Legal Aid New South Wales and authored by Redfern Community Legal Centre. Previously worked in Women's Refuge, and the past 4 years has been a member of the Council advising the Premier of New South Wales on domestic violence matters, strategic planning. Also a member of the Board and Tenants Association and Ringabaya Women's Legal. I'd like to introduce Charmaine Weldon.
Welcome everyone, and I'd like to pay my respects to the elders of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I pay my respects to elders both past and present. I'd also like to acknowledge, I was sitting doing this presentation and I thought, you know, the women that have passed away due to domestic violence kind of don't get recognised enough, and I don't know, it just came to me like spirit sisters. So I'd like to dedicate to those women that have passed, and we should acknowledge our sisters in spirit, those sisters who were murdered or have gone missing, and today we will remember you and listen to your voices, my spirit sisters. Mind you, this is the first time I've ever done a presentation in front of so many people. I work for the Sydney Women's Domestic Violence Service, Advocacy Service. We're funded by Legal Aid and managed by Redfern Community Legal Centre. It goes to 4 courts in AVO list days, which are Downing Centre, Newtown, Balmain and Waverley. We're based at Downing Centre 5 days each week. The WDVCAS are administered by the WDVCAT at Legal Aid. The WDVCAT administers 28 women's domestic violence court advocacy services covering 108 local courts across New South Wales. WDVCAS helps to address the legal and social needs of women and children experiencing domestic violence, assisting women and children to obtain legal protection from New South Wales local courts in the form of apprehended domestic violence orders, and making referrals, which we feel are very important for women on the day. Working with local community NGOs, refuges, housing organisations and family support organisations. Thanks, Sue Ellen. Just some statistics. In 2011 and 2012, the WDVCAS across the New South Wales provided 76,665 services and assisted 27,565 clients. Of these clients, 11.6% identified as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander, 18% were from culturally linguistic diverse backgrounds known as CULT. And that's just a map of, and just gives you an idea of our services. We're across New South Wales. Our service provides information, assist and referrals, court advocacy, activities undertaken, we help clients assess the court system, referrals, ensure clients receive legal information and representation, ensure conditions the conditions on AVO of a client's AVO are appropriate to meet her needs, and support clients, work cooperatively with other key partners. The WDVCAS aims for a consistent approach to service delivery across all WDVCASs. WDVCASs are the glue that holds things together at court. We liaise with the police, local courts, legal practitioners and the social welfare agencies. It is critical for individual WDVCAS to help and maintain strong partnerships with key agencies. Just to give you an idea who works in the WDVCAS, we have a coordinator, assistant coordinators, cult specialist worker, the Aboriginal specialist worker, court advocacy worker, administrative assistants and seconded workers, which we rely on heavily each court day because they come from different services that we may be able to refer a woman, such as staying home, leaving violence, tenancy, or neighbourhood centres, or just other key services that assist on the day. My role of the Indigenous specialist worker, we get, and these are going to be obsolete very soon, is the yellow card from police. I call women who are referred by the police before the first court mention, assessing their safety and ensuring the apprehended domestic violence order, the ADVO, is tailored to the client's needs. We will liaise with police on behalf of our clients and negotiate suitable ADVO conditions which will work best for the client, particularly where there are family law proceedings. We ensure our Indigenous clients get a culturally appropriate service and access to the legal information advice. We ensure our clients get culturally appropriate referrals to obtain support, to assist with safety plan for our clients and our children. We make the referrals to refuges if a woman faces homeless because of domestic violence. And we just have a little case study with a client that was referred to our service. Lucy's story is, Lucy is not her real name. I'm having real troubles with this mic. But Mudgeongal referred Lucy, a young Indigenous woman, to our service. She was a defendant with assault charges against her in an AVO. Police had been called to Lucy's house 2 nights before and arrested her for assaulting her ex-partner. When we saw Lucy, she was covered in bruises and she explained that she was the victim of the violence, not her ex-partner. She said her ex-partner had been recently released from jail after serving a period of time for assaults on her. On his release, he pursued her that he should be allowed to see his 2 children who live with Lucy. To allow this to happen, Lucy went to court to remove an AVO police had taken out against her ex-partner. The following night, her ex-partner came to the house to see the children, but then assaulted her over a period of 2 hours. Lucy was too scared to flee the house without taking the children with her. And during the assault on her, Lucy was hit with a chair and strangled. She scratched his arm and his back, and she bit him in self-defence. When police finally arrived after being called by the neighbours, they listened to Lucy's ex-partner's story and then charged her with the assault. And let me tell you, this happens so many times to women, not just Indigenous women, but women in general. We referred Lucy to a specialist domestic violence solicitor who strenuously defended her at court. The charges against Lucy were dismissed by the magistrate and an AVO was made protecting Lucy and her children. We also advocated for Lucy when her housing provider wanted to terminate her tenancy because she was the one that was charged with assault, and we advocated on behalf of her with the Department of Community Services. We also referred Lucy to victim services and specialist domestic violence counselling. And I just wanted to let you know that with the WDVCAS, we have great DVPS solicitors that are there to represent women, defendant women on the day mainly, or to even assist women with parenting agreements and family law matters. So we do a really good job, I think, and we do keep the partnership with police, and we've got really good domestic violence officers that they listen when we might say, this woman needs that little bit of extra help, or can we just take away a couple of those orders restricting him from having access with the kids, and so that's my presentation. Any questions?
Can I just support Charmaine's presentation Charmaine present and for having Madeline present is to sort of bring home here that there's some things that can be done to step in early to try and address those issues, get some supports in place. These are again goes to the early intervention. Let's fix the problem before somebody needs to step in and remove the children because the violence is continuing.
And I suppose I just want to also add, there's a lot of potential claims for kids who are in care, a lot of potential victims compensation claims for kids who are in care. And who's doing anything about that? Community services are the legal guardians. Hopefully they're auditing the files to, see potential claims and make sure that they're, actioned. But if they're not, and relatives can see that kids in care have had, do have potential claims, then, they can contact victim services or community legal centres to speak to that.
Thank you, Charmaine. Got some flowers here for you. Yeah, and lunch is ready, and I would like to say the best conversations that's going to happen about men and violence is men having those conversations together and coming to conclusions, and programs going to best work for them and taking responsibility, certainly. Thank you very much.